back to Classic Firearms, guys. Jason here with Matt.
What's up, everybody?
Our classic firearms extraordinaire, because this is totally and absolutely out of my wheelhouse. Some type of French gun?
Yeah. All right, so it's really cool. We've got these very historic pistols here, right? So this is the model of 1950 pistol from France. And so one of the things that's really cool is we don't see a ton of French surplus in general. And given that there wasn't a super high production of these pistols, we don't see them very commonly in the U.S. kind of overall. So again, 1950 MAC, which stands for the manufacturer, basically. It's the Manufacture d'Armes de Châtellerault. Don't come for me with my French pronunciation, okay? It's Châtellerault.
Pardon?
So it's one of two government-owned French armories that manufactured this. The other one was the Manufacture d'Armes de Saint-Étienne. But they started production in 1950 when they were adopted by the military, and they basically had a 20-year production span up till about 1970.
Okay.
Now, they continued use until about 1989 when it was replaced by effectively the French version of the Beretta 82.
Okay.
And then currently the French, since about 2020, have issued the Glock 17 Gen 5.
That's awesome. So I do notice it's got some, like I was just mentioning off the camera, it's got some Beretta-esque, some type of, if you squint really, really hard, it kind of looks like the back end of a 229, 226.
All right, so it's kind of interesting because, as far as design-wise, right? So this is effectively a Browning-style design, right?
Okay.
So it's the barrel linkage that's going to pull the barrel down out of battery with the slide. So it's a kind of short recoil action, right? So as the slide starts to reciprocate, that first little bit, you can see that the barrel's going to come back with the slide. And then at a certain point, that barrel linkage pulls it down. So there's actually like ribs on the top side of the barrel that fit into grooves inside of the slide.
Okay.
And the barrel will tilt a little bit up as the backside is pulled down.
Okay.
That allows the slide to come all the way back. Just to show y'all guys, this is completely empty. In fact, we'll go ahead and remove that magazine. Speaking of the magazine, 7-round capacity single stack magazine, 9x19, just regular 9mm.
Okay.
So that's really cool. And then as it reciprocates forward, it's going to pick that barrel back up, pushing it up back into battery with the slide and continue all the way to the forward. Single action, so you can see that, if I put this in, single action fires, and the slide would have to reciprocate to fire again. It does have a safety here on the back. This is basically a hammer block safety. So if we can kind of focus here in the rear of the gun, when you rotate the safety lever, there's literally a piece that's rotating up so that the hammer cannot contact the firing pin.
But just to be sure, it's just a block. So technically, if something does fall in there with enough force, it could.
You can actually test it with a punch or something, but the firing pin will still move with the safety engaged. So you can see I can push that down. So it is a kind of a hammer block style safety. The hammer is a rebounding hammer. So again, if we, fire, you can see the hammer will strike and then pop back. So you can see there's kind of a gap here in front of the hammer. So it's a rebounding style hammer.
Okay.
But other than that, again, it's going to be similar to other Browning style designs as far as how you can take it apart. Like a 1911 or a high power. You basically have this slide catch here that acts as an assembly pin. When you pop that out, you can then basically take the slide right off. It does have a magazine disconnect. So, we can see there that the hammer does not drop without a magazine in it, which is a controversial, I feel, safety feeture in pistol designs.
I mean, I understand the reason why one would want it, but I'd rather have the gun go off when I need to.
I mean,
that's just me.
Interesting enough, it is fairly thick for a single stack magazine. So this is not something like some people have talked about how things like 1911s kind of feel very thin in the hand, or especially if you think about like a TT-33 Tokarev, they can feel very thin. This does not have that problem. It is a fairly substantial grip, even though it's only a single stack magazine. One of the things I thought was really interesting as far as the design of it is that the mainspring housing does form your back strap here, and the hammer and whole mainspring housing comes out as one unit. So that is one self-contained assembly that stays together even when you're disassembling the firearm.
That's pretty cool.
So again, this was it was kind of an upgraded version of the previous French issued pistols.
Okay.
So during or kind of between the wars, the French adopted the 1935A, And there was a rejected model, the 1935S.
Oh, okay.
And this is basically an updated version of the 1935S. However, having said that they rejected it, as World War II was starting, they did not have enough production of the 1935A, so they started supplementing with the 1935S.
Yes. Okay.
Another kind of, as we discussed the history and development of this, an interesting side note is the 1935A went on to be licensed by SIG and became the SIG P210, which is renowned as something we have highlighted on the channel before as the most accurate handgun, production handgun ever produced.
Yeah.
So it's got a very cool lineage. When you look at maybe call it the cousins and stuff, how these things develop and branch out.
That's pretty cool.
But yeah, so as far as users go, obviously the French military as well as police forces. And then basically a lot of use by former French colonies.
Okay.
So places like Algeria, Morocco, Central African Republic. Libya was not necessarily a colony of France, but again, they're very close neighbors, and they were used in Libya, as well as a lot of conflicts between these countries. Libyan Civil War, the Chad, Libya conflicts, as well as, of course, in Vietnam, like the first Indochina War and the Vietnam War.
Okay.
So yeah, again, it's a pistol that's got a tremendous amount of history, and so when we're looking at things that would be really awesome to add to a collector's portfolio, or from that perspective, I think that these are pistols that we don't see commonly.
Correct.
Whether these specifically are pretty rare, and then overall French surplus isn't as common as other surplus. But then also when you look at the fact that they've only been produced for about 20 years, there was only about 340,000 of them made between the two manufacturers. The fact that it saw service with multiple countries in different conflicts. I think that this is a really cool piece that for somebody out there to add to their collection.
Well, in saying that, I feel like I want to shoot it. So,
I think you should.
I'm just saying.
I have some previous engagements to take care of, so I think I'm going to have to sit this one out.
It's all good.
But I enjoy. I look forward to hearing your perspective. One of the things I think is very interesting, I wonder if you'll see when you go out and test fire it, is that back strap containing that main hammer spring. You can actually feel it kind of moving against your palm. And I wonder how that's going to affect your tactile sense of the gun when you're shooting it.
I don't know. I feel like, let's give it a shot.
Well, real quick, so there are a couple other things that we kind of accompany these pistols. So we have an original French user manual, Pistolet Automatique de 9mm Model 1950. And this is really cool. And then it's got an original kind of a rubberized canvas holster, which contains a second magazine.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So I do not know the likelihood of finding a lot of replacement magazines. I haven't looked into that, but they do have two. So that is fantastic because obviously nobody wants to fire a magazine and immediately have to go back and reloading, right?
Right, especially only 7 rounds. So.
Yeah. But I'm looking forward to hearing your report on how they do. Here's a selection so we can kind of get an idea of the condition of the pistols, right? So obviously you're going to expect that given their age and use, they are going to have a decent amount of wear just overall. Now I think that the finish on the ones that we have here look pretty good. Although, obviously there is wear on the slide and grips. The grips are polymer. The rest of the gun is solid metal steel construction.
And I'm noticing that these extractor springs are extremely strong. So, FYI, I'm just pressing on. I'm just like, this is very strong. Sure.
Now, as far as from a modern perspective of shooting, obviously this isn't something that you're buying as the most modern tactical pistol ever. First off, 7 rounds is kind of...
but it looks cool.
But it's very interesting. It looks very cool. Also, like the sights, right? So if we look at these sights...
The pass-through in the rear, the full built-in ones. I mean, you even have a loaded chamber indicator.
They're machined directly into the slide, right? So unfortunately, there's not going to be a lot of being able to modify or adjust sights. I do think that they've had a nice touch where they have added serrations here to the ramp on the front sight just to help cut down on glare a little bit. So I definitely feel like they're high enough to be usable sights.
Okay.
That trough has got a decent depth to it. That front sight is kind of thick, but again, it's not like super low, like low profile sights. I think that you're gonna be able to pick them up pretty well.
Okay.
But I think that we've got a real cool piece here.
I'm stoked, man. I'm ready to get to the range and get cracking at these.
All right.
Check out these French Legionnaires or 1950s. Just saying.
So yeah, an interesting piece of kind of Cold War era history. And you'll have to let me know how it goes.
Let's do it. Here we are at the range with the model 1950. Again, everything that Matt gave to this pistol, it really speaks for itself. Love the grips, and again, it has that SIG-esque feel, so I feel like we should just definitely grab some magazines and just get rolling. Let's do it. Here we are. Again, the 1911 style magazine, 8 rounds, solid to go. Let's give it a little run. About 15 yards out. Got another magazine back here. Woo! It definitely gives some oomph to the back of it. I'm feeling this hammer literally slam into my hand, and you can see it's getting a little beat up. But again, problem with big hands, it is what it is. Let's load up some more magazines and keep it rolling. All right, let's just get a couple more mags on there. Again, just gotta be leery of this, gotta change up my grip a little bit, but here we go. I will say, for these built-in sights, this thing is extremely accurate. You can't really change them, they are just grooved in there, but other than that, this thing's good. Again, right there, this thing feels good in hand. The recoil impulse is a little bit sharp. Again, full metal gun, I get that. And the only thing that's really grabbing me is this, but then I can just train around that. So I feel like we should finish this up at the table. Again, finishing this off right here at the table, man, I have to give this thing its praise and kudos. For that real steel feel, it's all solid construction. Again, that wide grip that you have here. This MAC model 1950 really does play a huge factor. Again, like I said, just be leery of this. This is just for me. This huge hammer definitely bit me a couple of times just because it has those, you know, grooves in it that can really get down for, you know, extra grip on the back. But other than that, solid to go. Like I said, I wish somebody would do a modern take on this thing. Maybe just SIG 210 or so, or maybe you could get grips that customize this thing even better. So that sounds really awesome. But guys, check this out, model 1950 for sure.